Hey, this is Tim Price with the Worship Leader Toolbox podcast. I'm so glad that you're along with us today for this special episode with an interview with Jeff Nail. Jeff is the worship leader for Heights Church in Collinsville, Illinois. And I've known Jeff since he was a student way back when at summer camp, and then served with him a number of years on Harvest Ministry, and then in our own church in Troy Methodist Church. And now it's great to see his ministry flourishing, and just praise the Lord for Jeff. So he'll be talking a little bit during this interview about raising up other worship leaders, handing off roles, struggles in ministry that seems like everybody has in some form or fashion, and our main role as worship leaders, among other things. So I know you'll look forward to hearing from Jeff in just a moment. Before that, I just want to invite you to do a couple things. One is to share this podcast with other worship leaders in your ministry and others that you might know. And the second is if you would be willing to help join us in partnering with support for this ministry in general. Between the podcast and the Worship Leader Toolbox blog and all the other various facets, we appreciate your partnership in helping to raise up and reach ministry leaders around the globe. So for now, let's jump to this interview. Thanks again. Hey, Jeff, so glad to have you on the Worship Leader Toolbox podcast today. And for those of you that are just chiming in here, we want to welcome you to the Worship Leader Toolbox podcast and to the community. And this is one of those podcasts where I just wanted to take a minute to interview a worship leader, but also somebody I've been connected to a long time and thought it'd be fun just to get together and talk a little bit. So welcome, Jeff.
Yeah.
Glad you're here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
And we've been a part of ministry together in years past, since you were in high school, really, and all through Harvest days and college and at our church. And then you, and we still stay in touch every once in a while when you're driving by in the van with all your kids in the van and say hi for a minute, eat lunch or something like that. And so just as we're kicking things off here, just tell us who you are and about your family and the church you're serving in, a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, my name is Jeff Nail, and I am a worship pastor. I'm also the executive pastor at a church in Collinsville, Illinois called Heights Community. And I am married to my wife, Whitney, and we have 3 boys. They're on the even years of their ages right now. We have an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And we are also foster parents. So currently we have a 4-month-old with us right now. So we get, and it's another boy. So we have 4 boys, four boys at our house. We always joke around saying that we don't make girls. And we went into foster care thinking, we might get a girl, we never know. And then, every time we get calls, they're boys. So
yeah, probably the older your boys get, the more that'll definitely be the case.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And say a little bit about, you said what you do at your church, but tell a little bit about your church. How long you've been there and some unique things about it.
Yeah. So we planted Heights Church originally in 2014. We felt called to plant a church in the metro St. Louis region, and our main heartbeat is a lot of Acts 2:42 of just in community, people loving one another, engaging the context of the area as a people, not just as individuals, but as just a community. Coming alongside each other, sharing meals with one another, inviting people into our lives, not just on a Sunday, but in all aspects of our life, whether we eat, play, work, we're inviting people in with hopes of building relationships and sharing the gospel with them. And so our church, like I said, started in 2014, and we were one of those that we had 7 people. And just had a desire to see the Metro East engage with the gospel. And so we started up doing services after about a year of kind of getting our feet wet, and got into a local YMCA and did the whole setup tear down for about almost 5 years. And so we just came out of that because we merged with another church, which is another story. As I said, we were Heights Church. Now we are Heights Community. We merged with another church plant in the area, in our hometown, actually, that we just seemed to be doing all the similar things. And it just felt like, why are we two different things? Why don't we just become one thing? And so didn't see that coming, but really felt God was calling us to do that, and which took a lot of sacrifice and humility and direction. And so, yeah, now we are
Yeah,
Heights Community Church.
that is really cool. I didn't really, I mean, I knew you guys had merged, and it
Mm-hmm.
was literally down the street from where you were meeting.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
that's really neat. And yeah, you could basically do a whole podcast on merging with churches. That seems like a common theme that's like growing.
yeah. We've actually had a lot of people kind of coming to us, and we've been kind of coaching them through, what it looked like for us.
So did it, what's been the big takeaway as far as
Uh,
success of it?
the big takeaway is just being we really needed to know like what our weaknesses were and what our strengths were. And when we came to the table, even with another church, just kind of laying that down, being like, hey, here's some areas that we need help in. Here's some areas that we're strong in. What do you think? And seeing the Lord work in a lot of those humble areas, you know um, it's really awesome to see on this side of it. We're just a few months into it, but just a definite sovereignty of God, like in saying, this is what I think, this is what you guys need to do, and just following that
Uh-huh.
has been amazing. And I can talk about some specifics, but basically just seeing God say, you need to do this, and us being like, oh, really? Like, are you sure? And then humbly like saying, okay, yes, he's really calling us to this. And then seeing everything transpire, you're like, oh man, God is so good. Like, it's been tough, but it was a good season.
Well, the
And
word humbly is good, because otherwise you just start thinking the church is about you, and really we are
mm-hmm.
all part of the kingdom. And
Yeah,
so merging is like a great element of that.
yeah,
And it's like a whole
yeah. And
nother
that's
story and a whole nother witness.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. And as like, as like the founding like planters, there's a lot of um, I don't know if the word's pride, but just like you create these brands or this excitement and like this thing that you feel like God has called you to like formalize and to usher through, and to be like, okay, we did that for like 5 years, 6 years, like now what do we need to like let go of? Maybe some things we're just holding on to a little too tight,
mhm.
and they didn't really matter in the great scheme of things. And so
Yeah, I mean that's good for you. I mean, it's like a dad walking a bride down the aisle,
yeah.
or like Abraham taking his son to the mountain. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's good not to put your stock in what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, stepping forward and humbly saying, "Here's our strengths. Here's what could happen."
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so we're really excited about what's gonna be ahead, as far as like each of the pastors kind of in their lanes, just kind of going at it. So we're excited.
So you also don't have to set up and tear down every week.
No, we don't, which is amazing. We had an awesome team the last 6 years that worked tremendously, helping us set up and tear down. It was a lot of work. We had pipe and drape. We were in a gym, so we had to make it sound not like we were in gym, and so that's a lot of
Yeah.
pipe and drape and a stage and chairs and lighting and all that kind of stuff. And you know how it is whenever you're teaching and training people who don't know anything about lights, don't know anything about sound, and we're having to do it every week. They got comfortable with it as far as figuring it out and excited, and it was taxing. But now we are in a space that we have everything set up. I'm looking at it now, and I just flip a couple switches, grab a guitar, and I could work through songs throughout the week and kind of sit in the room, which
Yeah.
is something I couldn't even do, without a basketball in my hand to dribble in it.
Yeah. Yeah. That is wild. But we have the same thing. So before
Mhm.
anybody listening, before Jeff went off to be a part of this church plant, he was a part of our church directly and indirectly for a number of years. And
Mhm.
so we had the same scenario there, although we were setting up in our own church,
Mm-hmm.
which is like the worst of both worlds. You got this place, but you can't use it. So we set up every single week. And I don't know if you remember all that, but
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
every single Sunday morning we would,
Yeah.
or Saturday night, early Sunday, we'd set up for church on Sunday in our Family Life Center and then tear it down. We did that from 04 to 2011. So
Yeah. And I remember, I mean, and then there wasn't like these little quick release stage pieces. Like you actually had to clamp the 2x4s together underneath the stage and
yep,
make sure that it was sound.
we saved $200 one month, and we spent who knows how much over the next however many years setting it up, clamping together. And
Yeah.
the hilarious part is, even now with the stage, I set those things up the other day for outdoor communion service and clamp those together again. It's like
That's
never
funny.
ending. But
Yeah.
whoever built them did a good job.
Yeah.
They're still
Yeah.
going strong.
That's awesome.
Right. So, yeah, either one of those, merging and tearing and setting up stuff, could be a podcast. So I got to save those.
I was going to say, yeah, this can definitely be podcasts.
So what's your favorite thing in worship ministry right now? Like what's a bright spot?
Oh man, just seeing people use their creative gifts God has given them, and just trying to help maximize that. Find areas that they need to work on. This is primarily worship leaders.
Mhm.
That's kind of my heartbeat. So we have 3 going on 4 worship leaders here that can lead by themselves, and so that's my primary focus is like to focus on them and to find areas that they need to grow, trying to replicate myself, trying to give things away, and find the areas that they need worked on and help them in those areas. But also just seeing them like thrive and in that has been awesome. And so I get really excited about that. And then just faithfulness to God, like to send people to lead and to steward. And it just, that excites me a lot. I mean, I
So
remember
tell me a story if somebody's listening here and they lead worship most weeks at their church, and they're sitting there thinking that'd be awesome to have 3 or 4 other people, even one other person who could help do
Mhm.
that. So are the people that you just mentioned people that showed up to your church and had worship leading gifts, or are they people that were totally just plucked out and sort of like, oh wow, I didn't know I could do this, and now I'm up here?
Yeah.
What's just a scenario or a step?
Well, I'll work backwards. I've never had someone who's like, I don't know if I have this gift. I've always seen like, and I don't know. It's just me. I don't run after people to get them to serve. For some reason, I feel like there's a layer of confidence that comes when people are like, I want to do this, so I'm going to put in the effort, go through the
Hmm.
systems of like, all right, I'm going to send an email here, or I'm going to check a box, or I'm going to talk to that guy who led or something like that, just to engage. So I haven't ever had anybody who's like, I don't know I could sing. And then, and then come to find out they can. I haven't had that. I've always had people who have sang somewhere else.
But maybe you may have had people that said they could sing, come find out they couldn't. No,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
just kidding.
No, I mean, I've had that. And that's a whole nother story of loving them on how to, get them into the area of serving that, fits them.
Yeah, but
But
I didn't mean to interrupt you. So
no, you're fine. So I've had other people who've come who've led other churches that've kind of been in my circles that I knew of, and then they want to take it like a bigger role. They're feeling more of like a calling or a nudging to like lead more or to navigate that calling in worship leading. And then I've had like I have a good buddy of mine who was a worship pastor at a church in Texas, and so he's come on, and so he's full fledged. He's been leading worship as long as I have, and so like that's a lot easier of a role to just jump into, but a whole different path for me to lead in. But yeah, going back to your question, it would be nice. I'd say like I've always like just prayed like, Lord, send people, like
yep.
bring people in that I could help steward. And we're a church planning church, so we're always looking at like we're going to be sending people out, and so it helps that if we're sending people out that we're actually like nurturing and shepherding and then sending them out, then instead of like going and just finding, oh, we need someone who could do this, who's not a part of us, someone who's serving within the church that we could just like steward and build them up and encourage them and equip them and then send them to go.
Yeah.
So
That's
just like
really
parenting.
awesome.
So
just like parenting. That's good.
Yep.
So a couple more questions here. What's been one of the struggles that you've had, and didn't have to be a deep personal struggle or anything. It could just be like in your church. And then how have you been overcoming it, or what do you see is going to be the way to overcome it?
I have a lot of different routes I can go. Not that I have a lot of issues. I just have my caffeine kicking in. So,
well,
I have two. I'll see if we can get through it. And I'll say if I have time for the second one, we'll go with it. But the first one is like we were just talking earlier about like technology. Technology is always changing. A lot of times, for the better. But there's always like a slower process for just volunteers, normal, regular attenders, members who aren't in the professional world of like audio production and lighting. How to get them acclimated to something like lighting and sound production and even little things like I think I can run slides, but I've never used a Mac computer. Little things like that. And just taking a deep breath and saying like, I want you. I want you on my team, and I want to work with you, and just putting in the effort to train them, and then at that point, just seeing them kind of being able to figure it out and then be able to train other people has been really cool. But I would say just the struggle of having the time, and COVID's even been kind of hard in this, to having the time to train people. For me, and I don't know if this is other people's situations, but when you are tear down set up, it's hard to get into the building physically to train. And so it's a lot of like, watch this YouTube video without having it in front of you, and so in my season now, it's going to be different because I could actually bring people to the building, sit in the seat that I'm sitting right now, looking at the computer that we're going to be working with right now, and to be able to hands-on train. That's going to be helpful. But again, COVID is kind of helping or not helping us kind of fully engage in everything yet.
Yeah, that's even been the hilarious thing of even talking to people is that you ask them a question, they say pre-COVID or now. And that's sort of fading away now because pre-COVID is almost like a distant memory. So some ways you're not even saying that. But so your overcoming in part is based on just a physical spot to, do it.
Yeah.
But it's also good to have that knowledge that you're able to equip even if people aren't right there. And that goes to what you said about people being some level of confidence of really wanting to be involved in some way.
Yeah.
So does the same apply to tech roles, or do you kind of just look around the room and say, I got to ask somebody to help me with tech stuff. I'm just going to go ask this guy.
It all depends on the actual role. It seems like a fallback that everyone has. We've, merging two churches and having different tech teams and different technology, and then saying, hey, well, this is kind of the technology that we need to have that I think will be the best fit for everyone. And then having people like come and look at it and seeing that in our situation, like it was like a different level of, our team knew this digital board really well. This team is like, oh my gosh, I don't think I want to work in this spot anymore,
Yeah.
Which is okay. Like I try to like say like, well, I'm just going to put you on as an assistant. You don't have to like be that person, but this person is going to help train you. And then they're like, I think I'd rather just do lyrics.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, like that's cool. Like, and then because it is such an easier kind of entrance into serving the team, then, we have the X32, Behringer X32 board. It's like, okay, it's a little bit daunting for people at first glance,
Yep.
And so.
So what's the second one that you were going to mention?
The second one I was going to mention is just like a personal one. Like I would say I am a perfectionist. I like things. You know this about me. Just like I have like weird, I don't know. I said, hey, there's trees on the left side of the road, and I pick up on things like randomly and, like squirrel, ADD too. But that transfers over like in my role as, I've done a lot of roles in church planting world, right? You had to wear a lot of different hats is kind of
Yeah.
how I say it. And sometimes you put on hats that you may not be that great at, but you had to figure it out because you're the guy, or you're the girl like trying to do it. And so putting on the hat and then, navigating it, feeling confident. And then at the same time being like, I kind of like the way this hat feels, and then not wanting to take it off. But our whole role as like worship leaders and leaders in general is to formulate it, figure it out, what's the vision, and then take it off and then put it on someone's head, and
Yeah.
then
Well,
walk them through
church
that.
leaders in general. I mean,
Yeah,
shepherds and all that. That's the
yeah.
role.
And
They
so
equip the saints.
so my personal struggle is like getting to that point where I'm like really comfortable. I like the way this hat feels, I look pretty good in this hat, like you just like have that confidence and excitement, and you feel like you're rocking the what you're doing. And then at that point, like lose focus of the fact that like, no, like this is yours to figure out so that you can hand it off and it help steward more people. So
That is really good. All right. Well, a couple more questions, Jeff, and then we're going to wind down. But before we ask these next couple questions, we're going to take a brief 30-second break for these little commercials that they ask you to do on these podcasts. All right, we're back, and just a couple more fun questions. What are a couple of your favorite resources or tools right now? They don't have to be new, just stuff that you just can't live without.
Yeah, my Heights community, we do a lot with like the Worship Initiative, the Shane and Shane guys in Dallas. It's a paid subscription thing, but it is very helpful. They put a lot of work into just resourcing kind of all areas of your team. And so that has been a huge benefit for my team, especially anywhere from like musician to soundboard to worship leader training, giving them little nuggets of say, hey, go watch these videos. They kind of come up with all that structure that's helpful for me. So I can say like, I could, for like a song leader role or a worship leader role, I can kind of give them certain videos to kind of watch and to equip them. And they have that all kind of housed on their website. Another one is honestly like YouTube has been like the biggest resource for me. Smart TVs have been, changed my life because I'm just like, I like to have sound around. So like I'll be at home and I'll just turn on the TV, turn to YouTube and watch something from like Austin Stone. Worship is a big one for me. Or again, Shane and Shane Worship Initiative, or and then because of the algorithms and whatnot, they're going to play through all these different worship songs that are familiar, right, in that same wavelength. And so that way I can kind of pick up on some new resources that way. So
that's awesome. That's good. All right. So what are a couple fun things you like to do when you're not at church wearing different hats, leading worship and being an executive pastor and whatnot?
Yeah, I like to just do things with my hands. So, I love, I grew up a son of a tractor business dad. And so he, I love to mow the grass, which is really funny to a lot of people, but I love, making those lines look good. I joked around about being a perfectionist. Well, I guess it goes down deep into my grandpa actually was a farmer, and if he didn't get the crops, like the rows, straight enough, he'd turn around and do it again. It's kind of how I am. And so I love to mow. I love to just to work outside. A new thing for my family, which is kind of funny, is that we bought an RV, a mobile home, and I'm redoing the whole inside. And so we're hoping to take our family out, just camp, randomly, and just to get away. And so yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to fix things in a 20-year-old mobile home, and so learning a lot.
A trailer or a driver?
It's a driver. Yeah,
An RV.
It's like a bigger white squirrel. It's a 450 Ford. So
Wow.
yeah,
That
it
is
has
amazing.
I've got some dualies on the back, so it's pretty big. It's 31 foot. So
That is really neat. That should
yeah,
hold everybody.
yeah, yep.
That is good. Well, I would hate to bore people talking about memories of years gone by of harvest and worship camps, or camps where we led worship. But
Mm-hmm.
just for the sake of sharing a couple of them, it's interesting. You could probably talk also about, is worship ministry discipleship or is it evangelism? And from what we described in terms of working in the church, it really is a lot of discipleship. I mean, you're helping people
Mm-hmm.
worship God and you're helping people train people for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also this evangelistic side where, kids just, or adults or whoever, just are in the spirit of people worshiping and they sense God's presence in their lives and it changes them.
Mm-hmm.
But I got sidetracked thinking about fun stories and went on that end. But anyway, just for fun, Jeff and I we have done probably, I can't even count how many hours upon hours, hundreds of hours that we have led like camp and conference worship and traveled around the van and did all that stuff. So I just want to say I appreciate all that part you did, recording on albums and playing guitar and singing. And that was just really great. And you mentioned the trees. That was one tiny little story, but you drove the van, you led teams, you cranked out a lot of stuff for several years. So that was great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I said it was it was vital for my worship leading development and just being on a team and a lot of different teams too, having a lot of different people in and out and just getting to know people and getting off the stage and just getting in with the people and getting to know them. And I still have lasting memories. There's even a couple of people that come to Heights that actually are from some of the church camps that we went to.
Yeah.
And then they'll trickle in. I'm like, well, hey, you want to go to Snack Shack?
You mean the Sugar Shack?
The Sugar Shack? Yeah.
That's funny. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say as we wind down? Not to put pressure on you, but anything you would just say to a group of people that are following the Worship Leader Toolbox resources?
I'd say, as worship leaders, I kind of mentioned that we are always like replicating ourselves, but I think I heard it once saying that we're not really replicating ourselves; we're actually just pointing people to Jesus, and shepherding them to Jesus, not to ourselves. And so I think that's a good word for worship leaders because we need to be close to Jesus and following him and leading after him leading people. I tell our team, actually I just heard this. I took a weekend off and I had another worship leader friend of mine say we need to be thermostats, not thermometers. And I thought, man, that's really good. Like in this season, because there's a lot of people who are in fear. We're gathering again, and so there's some people like are in fear. But we set the tone, and that tone only comes from the fact that we have gone to the Father first, and we're just inviting people to come with us. And so,
yeah, that is a great word because that really does help define something more than, oh, here's the tricks of the trade, and here's what we use for production, and all those things have a place for conversation and maturity and growing and learning and all that. But I mean, you can literally worship the Lord just stand out under the nightstick eye. I mean, there's just the prerequisite is what you described more than anything else. So
yeah.
Hey, well, thanks for your time, Jeff, and blessings on you. And so glad to have you on the podcast, and we'll share it with others, and I'll let you know when it comes out.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Blessings.
Thank you for listening to the Worship Leader Toolbox podcast. If you would like to support this podcast, there is a support link in the show notes below. Also, we would love to have you click subscribe and give us a 5-star rating so more people can discover us. Don't forget to join the Worship Leader Toolbox Facebook page for connection and community. If you have any questions, please contact us or leave us a message at worshipleadertoolbox.com/podcast.